and really go ahead and give us your thoughts on failure and really just the big nebulous philosophy kind of, and how you view that in respects to your entrepreneurship and your innovation.
Sure. So the concept behind your podcast and blog, or whatever you want to call it, is one that's very familiar to me, and one I empathize with a great deal, because being someone who works in analytics and optimization, the notion that a failure is really just one more possibility that you ruled out in the set of possibilities is one that I very much identify with. So we do, as one of our services at MetaMarketer, we do A/B testing, multivariate testing, and really just optimization in general. So you always have a set of possibilities in any given, like say a multivariate test. You've got a finite number of possibilities for a given set of variables that you're testing, but in the methods that we use, you aren't testing all of them. You're testing a subset of them, and you're using those extrapolation from those to assume that if this didn't work, then its related tests or its related variants don't work either. And so if you rule one out, that's really refreshing.
Yeah.
And it's a real sense of relief to know that you don't have to spend time on that anymore.
Yeah.
So that's one philosophy of failure that I think is really liberating and really helpful. But at the same time, the reality is that failure, in a very real sense, is still an obstacle, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so I just feel in my day-to-day life as a professional, and in my personal life too, that I don't really perceive mistakes as failure necessarily, unless I have let someone down, and unless someone is hurt in the process. And that guides me, very much in my professional dealings and in personal interactions too. I want to make sure that that I don't fail people.
Yeah.
I don't fail people, right? So failure as a transitive verb, not an intransitive verb. If I fail, that's okay.
Okay.
But if I fail someone
Okay.
or something, and I have in the process disappointed someone,
Okay.
then that is a problem to me, and it causes me to
Yeah.
evaluate. What did I do? And it's difficult. It's a difficult process at that
Yeah,
point.
and that's a very real differentiator of that. Is this affecting me or someone else? And then, so even if you, I guess along those lines, if you were to have something occur that many would consider a failure, but it's really only affecting you, would you
Right.
still consider that a failure, or would you? It's almost like in your mind,
Yeah.
where's that mistake failure line? Because you just said that you don't really; those are not the same things to you.
At some level, it's semantics, and even if I consider it, even if I might consider it a failure in a broader sense than just a mistake, or something
Right.
like that, it's still not going to cause me to lose sleep unless I have in some way royally screwed up,
Okay.
and I've lost everything or
Yeah.
whatever, and that just. I don't want to say that doesn't happen because
Right.
there's wood here, but I think it's particle board, so I don't think it would do it much good to knock on. But I don't know. It's that distinction that I think at some level that's the key distinction, but I don't think it's the only distinction, and I'm not sure I've done enough soul searching to really know what other distinctions there might be. Other than that, I think once you start a business, and like I said, this company is the first that I've started as a company per se, as a business that I wanted to see grow, and that I wanted to have exist as an entity sort of outside of myself, right?
Yeah.
And that's a very different experience from being a consultant. It's a very different experience from being an employee, no matter how invested you are. And I think, there's a level of responsibility that comes with knowing that other people's safety and livelihood and all of that is on the line based on your decisions.
Yeah.
So that's really where I think one of the big distinctions is for me is I take that responsibility very seriously, and I allow it to guide me in my day-to-day decisions, my week-to-week decisions, my month-to-month decisions, and so on. I don't want to screw up. I don't want not just because of an ego thing, and not just because I don't want people pointing at me and going, "Oh, you failed."
Right.
That I can get through. I can live
Right.
with that, but I can't live as well with the knowledge that I caused someone to hurt and to lose their homes or cars or families or whatever. That I was somehow instrumental in some
Yes.
catastrophe happening for someone
Yes,
else.
and that's big, and it's something that I highly doubt that a lot of young or new entrepreneurs really take into full consideration, especially when
Yeah.
you're really getting started just on your own kind of a thing. You're
Yeah.
like, I'm just trying to go out and make something happen, that I have this vision for something, this, and and then before they know it, they're like, oh, this is working. I need someone else, kind of a thing. And then all of
Yeah.
a sudden, it's like before they've even thought about it and maybe considered that. So something definitely to take into consideration.
Yeah, for sure. I think it's important to have a seriousness about that, and I don't think I think one thing that could be interpreted about that is that someone might hear that and think that it means that you're necessarily risk averse when you think that way. And I don't think that is necessarily true. I think that it means that you're more responsibility guided, and
Yeah.
that means you take risks seriously. But
Right.
it doesn't mean that you're not willing to take risks.
Mhm.
You just have to be very calculated and very cautious about how you take risks, and
Yeah.
that like Branson says, like Buffett says, like anybody who's really seen the ups and downs of business says, you got to protect the downside. And if you know what it is you have to lose, and it's just you, and you're willing to take a big risk that could cost you everything, it's all you. It's all your
Yeah.
decision. But when it's you making decisions that could cost everybody else that's associated everything, it's sort of not your decision to make at that
Right.
point. You really have taken on a bigger responsibility than that.
Yeah, there's a lot more ripples in the pond
Yeah.
from that point.